weeks. I'm here with my buddy from the East Coast, Mikey Mike. Uh, Steamboat Willie is not with us today, but he's listening. Um, Thank you. Sorry for not being around, but the campaign has been keeping me really busy, so it's hard to sit down even for an hour to have a show and talk about what an hour tonight. We can talk about anything we want to talk about. Mike, what do you think about
anything?
What's going on in the border?
I think it's gaining steam, but I think it's a little too late. I wouldn't be
You think it's too
surprised
late?
if well, I think it's too late because they've already, now this bill that they want to pass says they can have 5,000 people a day come in. So you're just going to keep adding on. Uh, and the Republicans in the House are saying no go. That bill's not going to go.
And do you and make it a no go?
I think they should because of the pork that they want to add onto it.
Because I
The
think
they want to add the Ukraine funding and
what I do
stuff like that
like
onto it.
what's happening in Texas is that we have banding together.
Yeah.
I think you're muted, Mike.
What is it like? 26 states.
26 states have sided with Texas now. So
Yep.
we know states like California won't, Washington, Oregon,
Maryland.
New York. Those states aren't going to, but that's half the nation.
Oh yeah, it's a civil war.
And it's crazy because who would have thought, right, that we'd be in this situation now that we're in today, with what's happening in the border. And I don't understand why most people don't really understand that we it's not that we're cold-hearted and we don't want to help people, but we have to have an immigration policy that makes sense for all of us, right? You
Right.
can't have, for example, the state of California out of taxpayer monies giving 700,000 illegal immigrants medical insurance, right? Where when they don't even give it to veterans, right? They don't give it to veterans. They don't give it to somebody who's struggling, and we're giving it to them. And I know I've been accused of oh, I don't, I'm cold-hearted and I don't believe in human rights. That's not the case. In my opinion, I think we need to take care of our own first, and then we take care of everybody else if we can. But we got to have a policy so that the borders aren't open and people come in without them being vetted properly, without processing them properly. And I know part of the problem is you have attorneys, right? So an attorney for these 10 years, there's got to be a better way to bring people into the country. There's just got to be a better way. Right? We got to have ports throughout the
Sure.
southern and northern border.
I'm not right. I mean, look at the New Hampshire polls. The first thing that people said was the immigration is a problem, then the economy. It used to be the economy, then all that stuff. And so them being this far north, they may not be getting a lot of southern ones, but they're coming in through the northern side too.
Right. Oh no, they're coming through everywhere. I mean, wherever they can slide in, they're coming. There's going to be a huge event coming up February the 3rd in San Diego. There's a group of people from Arizona, California, and other states convoying down to San Diego, to boycott the border, that it's wide open.
I've seen that, the bunch of truckers and
Right.
everybody else, and yeah, that'll be beautiful.
And people from different groups are joining them.
Right.
Patriot groups, these parental groups that are going down there too, that are fighting for their kids' rights. They're going too. So there's a lot of people going to make a stand. Now they're going to get wet because it's going to be raining all weekend up here. But at least they're going to go down there and make a stand, which is what we need to do, because we need to make a difference. If we can't force the feds to do their job the right way, then we need to force them by showing support for states like Texas,
Right.
right, that are fighting the fight every day. Um, Again, that's just my personal opinion. I think that if people don't realize how bad it's gotten now, then there's no waking up later.
Oh,
There's no
right.
waking
I was just watching a thing on TV with New York City, and a bunch of migrants are beating up the cops. And you know, I wouldn't want to be in that city for anything. Like Sean Hannity was up there doing his show, and he moved to Florida, and he's got a studio in his house. He said,
Well,
"I'm out of here."
you can't really blame people for that kind of stuff,
Not at
um,
all.
because some of these people are desperate, right? Um, and when people are desperate, when people have fear, they do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Just think about when they did this COVID. If you don't get the shot, you're a bad person. You're going to get people sick. You want to hurt people, which really wasn't the truth, right?
Right.
But that's what they use to scare people. Kind of the
Sure.
same thing with this, right? We want to scare everybody, keep you in your cubbyhole, keep you within your boundaries, whether it's your yard or in your home, and not give you the ability to free speech, to be yourself, right? To be confined because of fear, right? I'll be honest. I mean, at our Vons, and I think I've told you this before, and you have a friend that does this. We have cameras with the blue lights, right?
Oh, right.
Um,
We do too.
we have those, and to me, that's a bad sign, right? That you have to do that, right?
Yep.
Kind of like when I was on Channel 7 News here, KABC. I mean, we have beautiful views up here. We live at the base of a national park, right? And the homeless are destroying it, right, daily. Um, and some of it is it's not a choice by them. They've just been pushed into a corner or dropped off into a corner. But what are we doing to resolve the issue, right? And it's always we're going to spend more money, right? We're going to spend
Right.
more money, and that necessarily is not the way to solve the problem. First, let's figure out where all this money went to first, right?
Right.
So we don't make that mistake again. So we don't give money to these certain nonprofits that are benefiting from the homeless programs, right? Obviously, it's not the homeless people benefiting. Um, it's somebody
It's
else is, right?
like in New York, it's the hotels that are putting them up, and the government's paying them to stick them all in hotels.
I think there's even the Roosevelt Hotel in New York has homeless people in there.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. They're saying, the government's saying, we'll pay you to let these people live in here. Where if you go up there to be a visitor, you're not going to be able to get a room.
Nope, nope. And we have a bill coming up, Proposition One, in California, that the governor is behind 100%, which scares the crap out of me. Number one, that my governor is behind something, but I've read most of it. I'm not a big fan of it, even though it talks about helping people that are homeless with mental issues. Um, some of the money that he's going to use, he's taking it away from other organizations that need that money.
Sure,
So,
sure.
so you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Makes no sense to me. I don't understand why we don't have transparency with, okay, here's the money that's been allocated. Where did it go? Who did it go to? Let me
Right,
look at your records to see what's going on with the money. And if it's legit, then okay. At least we know it's legit. But right now, at least in California, anytime any of the leadership opens their mouth, I'm already okay. You're about to lie to me again, right?
right,
You're about to lie to me again, um, and it's kind of heartbreaking to think about it because the people that get abused the most are the middle class that pay most of the taxes, right? Small businesses that have to struggle through this wage of trying to find people today, right? So it's very disheartening that people don't pay closer attention to what's really happening and people don't read. And part of it is they've been programmed not to ask questions, right? When was the last time I can go to my neighbor and ask him, when was the last time you reached out to your city council person? Oh, I've never done that. When's the last time you talked to your assembly? Oh, I've never done that. Well, why not? Well, because I don't know when they're coming, and I don't know if I can. Right.
You
So
don't know
it's
if
a
they'll
lack.
listen.
It's a lack of understanding what the leadership is supposed to do for you. Right. So I think education is part of the problem that we have. We need to educate everybody. They have a right to ask. Right. And if they elect somebody and they don't do their job when that term is up, get them out. Find somebody else. Find somebody else. Right? We don't need to keep people around that don't want to do their job, that don't want to keep their word. Um,
Then our
you know,
fiscal, you be responsible.
right? I mean, I actually I signed a pledge a couple of days ago that I would never support a bill to raise taxes in California. Right? As long as I'm in office. I was surprised how many people in California have actually signed that versus not signed it. Very few of the leadership has signed that pledge, and it's not a contract. It doesn't hold you. You don't get in trouble.
You're not legally binding. Yeah.
No, but yet they don't want to sign it. But yet they campaign on that. Or we're not going to raise your taxes. We're not going to do this. You. We're not. But yet they won't even sign a pledge, and that to me that goes back to integrity. Right?
Yep.
If you're making that promise in the campaign trail, then you should sign it. I don't care. Right? Sign the bill,
Yeah.
or sign the pledge. You don't have to, but they don't want to be held accountable. That's the problem, right? Because when they get in office or they're in office, they want to spend their money willy nilly, and not be accountable to us, the taxpayers, which is incredibly um, stupid on our part not to hold them accountable,
I
right?
mean, you
And keep
think about it. That's where the Revolutionary War started when we were breaking away from England because of taxes. Because we wanted lower taxes, and when
right,
did we start getting taxed? When Abraham Lincoln came in because he wanted to recoup some of the funding that the government had because of the Civil War.
right,
And now it's like, oh, they're going to give us money. We're going to take it and do whatever we want. Maryland had a surplus when Larry Hogan left. So
hmm
the new governor comes in, he wants to put docks up and make parks. And now he's going, we got no money for transportation improvement for the roads. So we got to take money from someplace else and do that. The hell is wrong with these people?
I and it's funny to me because just breaking it down to a family unit, right? And I'll just use my family, right? If we can't afford to go to a restaurant, we just don't go. We eat at
Right,
home.
right,
If we can't afford to take the grandkids to Disneyland, we just don't go, right? Because we can't,
exactly.
right? I don't understand why the government. I know it's not their money; it's our money. But why don't they look at things in that kind of realistic mode? Okay, this is how much money I have. We need to split it up evenly or whatever percentage with everything we have, and that's it. We can't spend any more than that, right? Right. Now, if we end up having um, extra money, California, a great example. 2 years ago, we had a surplus of, I think it was $68 billion, and now we don't have. I think we're in debt $6.8 billion or something like that.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So, what happened to all that excess money? Where did it go? Right. I don't know.
It wasn't in
He's
your
not
pocket.
telling us. There's no transparency. He's not saying anything to us about where the money went.
Right.
So it's kind of disheartening to see what they do to us, and we don't really question
Respect.
them. We
Yeah.
just accept it, and kind of like that's why I like the governor of Texas, because he doesn't accept anything. Right? If it doesn't make sense to the state of Texas, he's not going to follow it. Right? And I think some of these governors should take a lesson and protect their own states from the federal government because
Well, it was kind of funny. I saw something this week and they said, who would the surprise vice president be if Trump got in? And I thought to myself, Greg Abbott.
yep.
And I don't think a whole lot of Americans would object to that because they can see what he's doing.
I can actually see that happening.
Yeah.
Um, I can see it happening because similar mindsets. strong personality, not afraid to speak.
Right?
And you have to admire people that aren't afraid to speak. Now, I don't mean degrading people or talking down on people, but speak your mind, right?
Yeah.
You know, on the campaign trail, I hear a lot of people speak, right? And people are afraid to address certain issues because the party line. You want to hold the party line, or you don't want people to get offended. But I think sometimes you just have to say the truth,
Right.
um, and whatever consequences come from the truth, then you accept it. But you got to be able to say the truth. You got to be able to talk to people and let them know, hey, this that you're asking me something that I really can't fix. Because everybody wants a fix like this, right? It doesn't happen that way. You
Well,
can't fix this train that's derailed overnight, right?
you
You
can't
just can't
fix
do it,
stupid.
right? So you got to figure out the way they did it so you don't do it that way. Get away from the special interest groups that want you to keep doing things a certain way so they keep making money. Um, it just people need to question more. People need to question more.
Yeah, I saw something today where they were questioning the money that went to Ukraine, and they said, who's it going to and what's it for? And a lot of the money was going to arms and weapons people. And we're like, okay, well, how much are we paying for stuff? And nobody really seemed to know.
We can't we can't keep giving things. It goes back to like you and I, right? If we lend money to somebody, we expect to get paid back, right?
Sure.
We normally don't give money away to give it away. It just doesn't. Life isn't that way. I don't understand why we do that. Now, I don't mind helping other countries and helping other people, but we got to take care of each other first, right? In order for us to take care of somebody else, if we're not taken care of, we're really no good. If you think about it, right?
Right.
We're no good. So let's take care of our own families, our own schools, our own parks,
I
our own
mean,
country, our
I
own
used,
infrastructure
when I
before
was
we
a
start giving things away.
when I was a contractor, I used to see the U.S. aid group, and we'd be giving money to all these other countries that hate us. You hate us? Guess what? You don't get shit. You live off what you got. You manage your budget. We're not going to be supplementing you.
And I know sometimes people think that's kind of cruel, but it's not, right? To
No,
me, you take care of your own people first. It's like
exactly.
everybody takes care of their own family, right? They feed their own family before they come offer me food, right? So I don't understand why we have this mentality that we just got to give everything away to people without explaining to the American people why either, right? You got these
Right,
yahoos in Washington making decisions and not really explaining to us anything.
right.
Who, what, why, and where. Maybe if they told us, I know they can't tell us government secrets and all that. But maybe if they kept us in the loop and there was transparency where the money's going and how it's being spent, and maybe the people would not be against a lot of things. But we don't
Uh,
trust you. We don't trust
exa-
you.
exactly. I mean, you hear Mitch McConnell saying, "Oh, this border package that we're put together in the Senate, it's going to be great." Bullshit.
Yeah,
You're sending money to another country that isn't your money, and if it was, you wouldn't be sending it. And it just doesn't. These people up there think they've got a unlimited pocketbook, and it's not their pockets; it's ours.
right. And I don't really understand how we got sidetracked as a nation where we think big government is the answer to everything. I really don't know how that happened.
No,
Um, the beauty about living in this republic is that the states have their own power to do what they need to do.
right,
We don't need the federal government to function, right?
right,
Right? We can function without the federal government, and we can't allow the feds to be in our business. We just can't. It's ridiculous. Kind of like Roe v. Wade, right? everybody was up in arms. Oh, they made it illegal. Not even reading what the ruling was.
It's a
Nothing.
state.
It's a
Give it to
state
the state.
issue,
It's the state's right.
right? So, but
Yep.
media and people took that as the federal government made it illegal to have an abortion, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know of any federal doctors that I go see. Do you?
No, no.
Exactly.
But it's funny how they twist things around and get people riled up over it because people are going to believe whatever they see on the news or social media instead of saying, oh, wait a minute, what that means is it's up to my state. Now, if your state says no, then you fight with your state. That's your battle there.
Yeah,
But
or
the
you go
Fed
to
should not be involved in that at
or
all.
you go to another state that may have it.
Right. California, we have everything.
Yeah, I mean we
We have
do
everything.
we do too. I mean it's just crazy. And now they I know out here they were trying to do something. Oh, they wanted Maryland to support Texas. Well, Maryland is a blue state,
Right.
and you know damn well that the governor out here isn't going to do it because he wants to. He's got higher aspirations, I think, at one time in his life, and he's not going to go against that. But it's just chicken shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it truly is. It truly is. People get caught up. Um, Instead of doing the right thing for the community, for the state, for the country, we have this feely nonsense that I get people have feelings. Don't get me wrong. It's not that you shouldn't have feelings. You can't think intelligently when you're feeling a lot of things, right? When you worry about Roe v. Wade, oh, well, they didn't make it illegal. I mean, and these are smart people, and in
Right.
their head, they already convinced that it's illegal, right? Because they overturned it. Right? It's a decision that never should have been made to begin with,
It
so
wasn't
it
in
was
the
overturned.
not in the Constitution.
Nope.
So give it to the states. And like
What do you think about the bipartisan tax bill today?
I didn't hear about that yet.
They
What are
they
they
expand
looking at?
they expanded the child tax credit. It's getting some pushback. Um,
It almost just seems like they're just trying to say the more kids you have, the more money you're going to get back. And
yeah,
it's the government stepping in again in your life to try to make you have more children so you could get more money back from other taxpayers and you're not paying your fair share.
and and it's funny you say that, right? I had a conversation with somebody a couple of nights ago. Um, I was being interviewed actually for an endorsement, and we were talking about taxes, right?
Right.
And the question was, do you believe having a cap on taxes? And my answer is absolutely. If
Absolutely.
if it was up to me, everybody would pay up the same percentage, right?
I think Ted Cruz was looking at that a national tax of being 5%, and that I'm all for that because it's the more you make, the more they tax you with. I think I'm at 20 or 22%, and I still have to owe every time I do taxes.
And I and if you do that and you do away with the loopholes for the multi-billionaires out there, right?
Right.
They have to pay, because remember, and nothing against Trump, he used a system that one year where he was laughing, he paid like $300 in tax or $33
Jeez.
in taxes. I mean, the guy is a billionaire, and that's all he's paying. But because we allow it legally, right? We give them loopholes that they can use. So if you have a straight tax, there's no loopholes. Everybody pays that percentage of whatever they make,
Exactly.
and it to me that's fair,
Right.
um,
A
right? And
flat
then
tax.
yeah, and I know a lot of people don't want that because it takes money away from people like from accounting people, CPAs, right? They got to make their money, and they make their money on taxes, right? Every year, people have to file taxes. So Those guys make all their money during that time of year,
Right.
um, and they're going to push back. Those groups are going to push back and say, no, 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 we don't want that. The real reason is they don't want to lose their money, right? So we live in a complicated society anymore where we don't want to simplify things. Um,
Everybody wants big government. Why do we need big government? We don't. We don't need the Department of Education and a
no,
few other ones that come along, because what does the Department of Education do? It just sends stuff to other states. Well, I think if you had $80 billion for the Department of Education, you could take that $80 billion and split it up amongst all the states. And yeah, people are going to lose jobs, but guess what? People are losing jobs now because they took the minimum wage and jacked it up out here to $15 an hour. In some areas, it's $20 an hour, and they know that's coming, so they're already laying people off. So people
well,
are going to be out of jobs.
well, think think about this in California, right? If you work at a fast food restaurant, you're going to make $20 an hour. If you work as a waiter in a regular restaurant, your minimum wage is only 16.89, I think, an hour. Um, Big difference, right? So who's going to
Oh
want to
yeah,
work in a family-owned restaurant uh, when they can go to McDonald's and make $20 an hour? Right.
exactly.
So
Well, McDonald's is getting smart though, because they're putting those kiosks in,
yes,
and you can just go over there and type what you want on the little kiosk. Boop. You're gonna get it that way. It's all gonna become automated, like
and they don't.
going to a grocery store and you do your own checkout. Do you want to
Well,
give them a tip? No, I don't think so. I'm the employee here.
right.
I should be getting benefits from you.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. So even when you go to the drive-through at McDonald's, the first thing they ask you is, "Are you using your mobile app?" Because they don't want to.
Exactly.
They don't want to take the order, right? They don't want to take the order. If you do it on the app, then they don't have to deal with it. Everything's automated. Um,
Yep.
People, it's funny. And going back to my days in the army, when the federal government was doing that with the armed forces, right? Every branch has military police,
Right.
right? Shore patrol, whatever you want to call them. Um, but they brought in civilian private securities, right?
The DOD police.
Right. So now we had MPs who didn't have a function anymore, right? Except when we went to the field to train. But that was good experience for them, being on patrol on a base,
Right.
actually writing tickets on a base, right? That was good training for them. A lot of them wanted to become officers when they left the military, but yet we spent extra money to bring civilians in while we already had law enforcement officers on the base,
Exactly.
which to me makes no sense, right? Kind of like the mess hall facilities, they hired civilians. People join the army and they're cooks
Yeah.
and they're servers. We don't use them, right? We'd rather pay somebody extra money and use the cooks when we're in the field, right? And you weren't in the field every week, right? I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
Well, when these guys got deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, who do they send? They send the MPs.
Yep,
I mean, a lot. I mean, I've got a few battalions up here, and it was like I would talk to the guys. Hey, where are you going? Oh, we're being deployed, and that's where they're sending the MPs instead of saying soldiering. It's MPs that are going out there.
right. It just, I think we've lost a common sense approach to things, um,
Well, I think it
for
all
whatever
started.
reason.
I think it all started with the political correctness era when
Yeah,
everybody wanted to be politically correct. Well, guess what, folks? I am not politically correct.
I like that.
You know, this was, I guess, the Tea Party hat. But I was like, don't. Why do you have to be politically correct? A rock is a rock.
Yep.
A bottle is a bottle. You know,
It's it's like the 20 what is it, 200 different genders? Who comes up with this nonsense?
Yeah,
Right?
they must use every letter in the alphabet to get those genders.
I mean, and I get that people, feel different, right? And I get that some people are LGBTQT, and I get some people that want to have surgeries, and I understand all that. But there's truly only two genders,
Right?
right? And think about this: if if a man is going to have surgery, get his genitals whacked off, he's only going to become a woman, right?
He's still going to have the chromosomes.
But in his mind, he's only going to be a woman. He's not going to be the other 200 genders. He's going to be a woman, right?
Unless you check his.
He can identify with whatever they want, but at the end of the day, if you're a woman and you become a man and they somehow give you a penis or whatever, you're just a man, right? There's no other genders. It's either you become a male or you become a female. There's nothing
Right?
else. So when they come up with all these genders,
What the
I'm
hell
trying
is a non-binary person? Isn't a binary like a bit for a computer?
yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. I just thought it was me that maybe I missed
No,
something.
no, it's 1010101000.
Right.
So because people, and I know they want to feel wanted, but they have to understand that not everybody believes what they believe in, right? I'll give you a great example. I do not like hot chocolate, right?
Sure.
I just don't like it. I don't like broccoli. Does that make me a bad person? Because when I look at broccoli, I'm like, ugh, right?
That makes you George Herbert Walker Bush.
Oh no. Um,
He didn't like broccoli either.
you know, and people they get offended because we don't agree with whatever their taste is, or, or,
Right.
or whatever flavor of the month they want to be, right?
Sure.
Or they take something like parental rights and then they turn it around and make it seem like you're against LGBTQT when we want all parents to have rights. If your kids
Right.
are LGBTQT, we want them to have rights. We want you to
Right.
know what's going on in school for them. But they twist it around, at least in California, to give the impression that you're against LGBTQT students, you're against LGBTQT, you're a bigot, you're a racist, and it's sad because some people buy into the madness.
Oh, they do, and I work with both male and female that are in that category. And a lot of times I would be glad when I would see them coming to back me up on something. And we'd all get along. And at the end of the day, we'd go out and maybe have a beer or something, and everything is fine. We don't throw it in each other's face or anything like that. And we all got along. And what happened to those days?
I don't know. And serving in the army, we had them too, right?
Oh, sure.
And we all knew none of us cared. Right? We even had leaders that were that way, and we didn't care because when it came down to doing the job, they did the job, right?
Exactly.
And that's all I ask people to do. I'm still friends with most of them, and we talk and laugh about it because we're like, what is the big deal? Why do you want special rights? The Constitution guarantees everyone their rights. We don't need special rules for LGBTQT. We don't need special rules for BLM people. We don't
Right.
need special rules for Hispanics. If somebody violates those rules, then we hold them accountable, not
Right.
create another law.
And that's a lot of the problem is holding people accountable too. I mean, they'll say, "Oh, we can't do this or we can't do that," and because this person's that. What the hell? God created us all equally. Man and woman and whoever else comes along. But the Constitution says all men are created equal.
Yep. And I think we've lost touch with that because we don't hold people accountable for violating anyone's rights, right? Unless it becomes a racial issue or
Right.
LGBTQ issue, then we get caught up on trying to fight when we should be fighting all the time when somebody is wrong.
I mean, look at Corey Bush, who just gave her husband $60,000 out of campaign funds to be her security. So what does she do? She goes out and says, "Oh, this is a racial issue type thing." Bullshit. It's not. It's a you are stupid thing. You know, if you got funds to pay somebody and you're going to pay them as much as somebody else gets paid, or even Fannie Willis down in Atlanta, with
Yeah.
her getting paying her special prosecutor who's never prosecuted anything except maybe traffic tickets, $650,000 a year, and she says, "Oh, I've got a bunch of special prosecutors and I all pay them the same." That's bullshit. Your lips are moving. I know that's a lie.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
do the right thing.
Now going back to the immigration deal that the Senate wants to push,
Yeah,
right? Um, Mike Johnson is standing against it,
exactly. As I would be too.
and it's upsetting some of the GOP senators that want that deal, right? Like Mitch McConnell, right? Um,
Rhino,
they're getting upset because Mike is saying, "No, we're not doing that," right? Um,
because they stuffed it full of pork.
the solution is, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but the solution is pretty obvious to me anyway. One thing that Robert Kennedy said that I agree with is we need to put more judges in the border to expedite these cases so nobody's waiting 10 years, number one, right? That's the first thing we
Exactly.
need to do. And then the second thing we need to do is if they're bad people, no, you're not coming in.
Right.
Get out, right? The cartel runs the border.
Oh, of course.
That is not a secret. That is not a secret. I don't know what kind of people are in denial about that. It's not a secret. We can stop that.
Oh, yeah.
We can
I mean,
stop that if we want to.
you think when the drug cartels were running the cocaine, and do you know who was over there actually trying to take down these factories and stuff? The DEA. They were trying to destroy the labs and everything else. And like DeSantis had said, you know, would you use military force if necessary to take care of these cartels? And my answer is, why not? They're fueling the invasion.
You know, I think even Oregon, I read today, maybe Oregon or Washington. The, I think it's Oregon. It's a state of emergency because of fentanyl, right? There's a lot of fentanyl getting into Oregon. I don't know if it's from Canada or Mexico. I don't know. Um, but when states like Oregon are doing this, you know, Oregon's a state that was allowing all kinds of stuff when BLM was wound up, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Oregon passed a law where kids don't have to know math, English, and science, and they can still graduate, right? So when a state like Oregon is doing these kind of things, it should be a red flag for everybody that
Oh yeah.
we have a problem, right? And think about it. Oregon is way up north. And if they're coming from Mexico, imagine the problem of the fentanyl issues we have in California,
Oh,
especially in
definitely.
Southern California. Right? So it just it's mind-boggling that people just don't see what's happening. And maybe they see it, but they're just afraid to react to it or do something about it because they're afraid of repercussions, right? Um, I'll use a guy that I know that um, the DOJ did not touch him at all when he was just a normal citizen. He became um, got involved in a professional organization. He's up in the leadership, and all of a sudden they came and arrested him. Right? Um, J6 happened a long time ago. They waited that long because he was becoming popular and had a little more juice. So they arrested him to harass him. And every time he goes anywhere, there's a marshal following him wherever he goes. Right?
Yeah,
Um,
weaponizing.
we need the government should not be allowed to do these things to people. They should not be allowed to go after you like this, harass you like this. If I committed a crime, then let's do it now. Don't wait 3 years down the road and say, "Oh, wait, now you're in a position that you have a little power, so we're gonna mess with you and put you through the ringer." Right? It's unfair. It's not the right thing to do, and we're still holding, you know, J6 is accountable. Um,
Political prisoners.
with little evidence, right? If you have all this evidence, then release it all. Let us see it. Let us see it. It shouldn't
Well,
be a secret.
I had a
Shouldn't be.
debate with somebody a few days ago, and they were saying, "Oh, yeah, Trump didn't do anything as far as the National Guard on January 6th." Well, Cash Patel actually saw him signing the papers authorizing them to come in. If Nancy Pelosi and them would do it, well, why do you think they didn't put her on the J6 committee to see what she knew?
Yeah, they're not
She
crazy.
could, they didn't want to touch poor little wine drinking Nancy. So
Well,
and then when she says, "Oh, I'm scared. I was scared," and then you see the video that got released uh, during McCarthy's time, where she was actually walking around the Capitol with the Capitol Police with her, and there was nobody else around her, and she was terrified. What the hell are you terrified of? They're not, yeah, there were people in the building. It's just like the people coming over our border. What the hell's the difference?
yeah, it's kind of sad, you know, where we've come to, or where we've gone to. It's not, we need to be smarter about things, and we need to take care of people, um, and not take care of outsiders, and not worry about a lot of things. You know, and go back to the market, right? When you go to the market, you realize the trouble we're in, right? When things are super expensive, not even 2 years removed, right? Things are expensive. They're expensive because the fuel costs. They're expensive because everything in general is expensive nowadays because the government forced that, right? There's a lot of times where I go to the market and there's not enough food in the market,
I've seen that.
right?
Yeah.
And why is that? Why don't we have this? We haven't done anything any different. Why is the reason we're not having the markets full of food, right?
Supply chain.
Right. So exactly, our infrastructure that sucks ass, right? And they still want to do things um, differently, right? They want you to have electric cars, right? In California, by 2035, you're not going to be able to have a car with that uses gasoline, right? Petroleum. Um, you're going to force that on people, yet you don't have an infrastructure that's going to support that.
They were
Um,
they were actually talking about that in Maryland, and I said, "Well, guess what? Then if I have to buy another car, I'm going to go to Delaware, which is right next door to us, and guess who's going to lose the tax money because they've got no state sales tax in Delaware.
you
They're
know,
dumbasses."
it's and look, it's I'm not saying that climate we don't need to take care of Mother Earth. I'm not saying that at all, but we have to do things smart, right? You don't take a hill head on without doing some research, sending
Yeah.
out spotters to see what's out there before you go up there, right? We need to have some kind of infrastructure in place before we start implementing a lot of this stuff, right? No, again, it's not that I'm against the environment, but we need to do it smart. We
I
just
mean,
can't do. We
you
just
look
can't
at
stick.
the you
Go
look
ahead,
at the
Mike.
charging stations too that these cars are using, and they are run by generators, which are run by what? Fossil fuels.
Yep.
And so I mean, we're losing coal, and now they want to cut down on natural gas and regular gas. And what does that also power? Your electricity.
Yep.
It creates the turbines that get those things going. And so we're going to be living in the dark ages on our own accord, or not our own accord, but their own accord,
Yeah. It, it's I always say it's always the flavor of the month. Whatever the flavor is, that's how it's going to go,
right?
right? And it's not about doing the right thing. It's about whatever the flavor is that day. Is it vanilla today or is it strawberry today? Right?
Right?
You know, it's just a constant battle, and a lot of it, I think, it's just fear and lack of information, and people don't want to ask. Um, Sometimes they don't want to ask because they it might make them feel like they're not educated enough. I don't know what the reasons are. You know, I like the old army mentality. The only stupid question is a question you don't ask, right? Right.
Exactly.
I'd rather know the truth than not know the truth. Right?
Right.
I don't want to find out through a bill that they're sticking it to me. If there's a bill in process, I would expect my leader to tell me, hey, there's a bill. This is what it is. I didn't sign it. I'm not for it. Or I signed it and I'm for it. But this is what it is, right? This is what it's going to do. Right? It might cause a little pain here, but the end result might be different. Right? At
Well,
least be honest with your voters and your constituents.
I even heard Ted Cruz saying this immigration bill that they want, if it's so great, how come we don't have it in print that we can read it? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so they're holding off, and that's old Chucky Schumer's thing, who I hope will get voted out in his next election or lose his seat to somebody with common sense, being he's from New York. And if I was in New York right now, I'd be pissed off. I'd say everybody that doesn't believe in the common sense way, see ya.
Yeah.
Hit the
And,
bricks.
and you're right. People, you know, I had somebody tell me, um, question about my campaign. Well, your campaign is very simple. I'm like, well, yeah.
It's common sense.
I'm like, look, there's something, whatever's important in my community, that's what I'm focused on. It's not about what I think is important. It's about what the people think it's important to them, right? And he looked at me like I was speaking in a different language. I'm like, it's about what the people think.
Right,
I, I will definitely, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, I'm going to ask my constituents what's happening in the neighborhood because I am not going to know. I'm not
right,
going to know, right? You have to tell me. It's like the KABC interview, right? I can tell you that more than half of Tahunga didn't know what was going on
right.
with the golf. They knew the golf course was closed, but nobody knew anything behind that story, right? Um, you have to be aware of what's happening so you can take action, whether it's somebody wanting to build condos in your neighborhood or God, I think it's been 10 or 15 years we had a big movement here. Home Depot bought the Kmart property and they were going to build a Home Depot here, right? And we were against it, right? We're a small town. Right? We're not a big town. We already have a lot of traffic issues and we fought it and the neighborhood stuck together and they won that battle. Now, Home Depot owns the property, so they're not going to let anybody else build on it, right? But we stopped the construction because we didn't want people coming from neighboring cities come shopping at Home Depot that would cause more of a traffic issue in our neighborhood. So
And it
it's just
doesn't
a
have and it doesn't have the same products that the local neighborhood likes to get. I mean, it's only going to be hardware. Boom.
right,
It's not going to have a mass array of different type of products.
right, right,
And
right,
I saw that happen with Kmart's out here before they closed. And I said, well, why don't you people in this county have a Walmart? Oh, because they don't want one. So they had to go build one. They built one in Annapolis. So now these people got to travel a ways to get to it. You could have put that right there in place of the Kmart,
right.
and you would have got a lot more economic bang for your buck, and people wouldn't have to go into other areas to buy the stuff.
Well, and it's funny you say that. Like we have to go to another area, right?
Sure.
They're finally building a Ross about a mile away from us. Finally, right? Um, but you're right. We have to go to Burbank. We have to go to Glendale. um, La Crescenta, to go get a pair of socks. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. And it's crazy out here. They just started a thing. I think it might be, I don't think it's statewide yet, but you can't even, if you go to the grocery store and you get a paper bag that they have outlawed the plastic bags in my county, it's cost you 10 cents a bag. So they're trying to get people to buy these reusable bags.
ah,
Well, if I could drive 5 miles down the road into another county, they still got the plastic ones, which I use the plastic ones to line like a trash can in the bathroom or something,
right.
and I would still use them. So I do a lot of my shopping in the other counties now.
And well, California, that's like mandatory, right? We if you use a plastic bag, it costs you 10 cents a bag in California.
And for the plastic ones,
Right.
well, these are the paper ones that they turned around years ago and said we're going to go to plastic bags because it's environmentally cutting down our trees and we're going to be doing this and that. So they went to plastic. Now they're going backwards, and when
Yeah.
they're building all, they're saying, "Oh, climate change, climate change." Well, if there's so much climate change, why are you cutting down all these forests to put new homes in their townhomes that are $500,000, and now those trees that were there that produce oxygen, you're
Yeah.
taking those away from us. People don't think about the whole. I mean, I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have the basics.
No, I think you don't have to be a scientist to have common sense. I think, you know, kind of like I get to have barrels to collect water, especially in California. Um, though it rains a lot lately, so we shouldn't have a water shortage anymore. But and I get the noise pollution, and you want to cut down on certain things, but you can't do things. Okay, we're going to change it today. It doesn't work that way. It should be a
Right?
gradual change so people get used to the routine. Right? You can't demand people, especially in California, where even if you make six figures, you're still living paycheck to paycheck
Yeah.
in California. It's not, it doesn't matter. You make a
Middle,
hundred grand, you're still living paycheck to paycheck.
that's middle
Right?
income right now.
Um,
I,
so it's a struggle
I live,
for
I live in the poverty level. Thank God the wife works.
it. It's amazing to me that, and you and I aren't the only ones in these shoes. Most people are, right? Not the millionaires, and not the sometimes the very poor have more money than you and I do because they get subsidized. But we don't
Right?
ask them to do anything for it. I'm going to give you an
Exactly.
example. I don't have a problem with helping people, but if I'm going to give you free aid and you're not looking for a job, then until you find a job, you're going to work for me. You're
Yeah.
going to volunteer to clean up my parks, my streets, right? If I want to help you, you're going to, and I think you give people self worth by doing that, right?
You make them get
I really think
initiative.
they feel better if they're working. It doesn't have to be 8 hours a day, but it could be, you know what? You're going to volunteer at a shelter to help the elderly, or you're going to volunteer at an animal shelter to help the animals for 4 hours, right? That's part of us helping you. You got to do something for the community, right? To get that money. Right?
Well, we even had, I remember when I was a kid that my parents would say, "Hey, it snowed today. Go over and shovel your neighbor's, sidewalks or whatever." And it was no big deal. We did it. Now
Right.
the kids sometimes, very rarely, come around to say, "Hey, I'll clean off your sidewalks in your driveway for $20." Okay, if you do that, bravo.
Yeah.
Well, last week we had like about 6 inches of snow. Nobody comes around, and then they tell you, "Oh, it's a law. You have to have your everything cleared." Well, if you're elderly or not in great shape, what's going to happen? What are you going to do to me? The
Right.
answer is nothing.
Well, we lose touch with a lot. Um, and
Just
and
basics.
and not that, I know things change with time and people change with time, but there's nothing wrong with a common sense approach to life in general, right? Kind of like when you come to a stop sign, stop, right? Kind of basic, right? Don't speed, you know, follow the rules, follow the law. You've got to have things in place, um, but people have to think with common sense, and I think that's where we miss the boat a lot of times because it's not about common sense. It's about how I feel today, right? Or it's about I spoke at a Methodist church, I think last weekend I can't remember what weekend it was, um, and their big argument was reparations, right? Um, they want LA County to give them reparations.
Right.
And I said, and I said this in front of everybody, and I know some people wanted to shoot me that day. I said, so you're talking about LA County in California giving reparations to you? Yes. Okay. Do you know that there was no slaves in California? No, I did not know that. I said, well, see, the people that were probably considered slaves were the Chinese, right? In California.
Right.
I said, not the African American. This is a free state, right? So why am I paying reparations to people that lived in a free state? That makes no sense to me. And then the response was, well, because they did it to my people in other states. I said, okay. So what you're telling me is that if something happens in Mexico, I should be held accountable in the US, even though I'm not there. That's what she's
Right.
saying. And she's like, well, no. I said, no, that's what you're saying. You know,
Right.
and I know I got a lot of people looking at me like I'm crazy. Um, and I don't care because
You made the light bulbs go off in somebody's head.
their explanations for why they deserve something made no sense to me. Right.
They want a handout.
Right. And I'm like, so I said, you understand the government's not going to pay that to you, right? You understand that. That's going to come from the taxpayers. That means you, me, are going to pay for those reparations and others. So you're not getting money from the government. You're getting money from yourself and myself. That's who's going to pay you. And I had nothing to do with that. Did you?
Did you go out? Matter of fact, did you go out and pick cotton? You didn't, right? Because
And
most of those people are dead.
and then of course the pastor was talking to me afterwards. Well, it's a touchy subject. I know it's touchy, but we got to address it.
Right.
We can't continue to avoid hard conversations with people. We got to have them. And we got to explain to them um, why it's not going to happen, or why it can happen, or why I'm against it. Right? Kind of like the abortion issue. Right? It's another touchy subject. Right? And they asked me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I personally don't believe in abortion, but that's my belief. I cannot contradict state law in California. Right?
Right.
I can't. I'd like to, but I can't." I said, what I can do is recruit more like minded people. And somewhere down the road, it won't be in my lifetime. Maybe we can change that. Maybe not. I said, but it's the law. It's in the Constitution in California. And it doesn't matter how I feel about it. Doesn't matter. I can't change it. Okay. I can offer the person that wants an abortion other avenues besides an abortion, but ultimately it's up to that person to make the decision. I can't make it
Sure.
for them unless you change the Constitution. And then I went down saying, in order to change the Constitution, you got to have a majority of like-minded people writing the bill, pushing the bill. You got to have a governor who thinks that way, who won't veto the bill. And even if the governor signs it, then you're depending on the population to vote
Right.
on that. And I said, and we live in California, so what are the chances that if even going through all that, that abortion will be made illegal again? What are the chances?
0.
I said, so when you ask my opinion, I give you my opinion, but my opinion really is not really relevant because it's a law. It's in the Constitution. I can't change that alone. I need everybody to help me to change that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's an education for people. Oh, okay, it makes sense, right? kind of like that Congresswoman. What was her name? Young Kim.
Oh, Young Kim. Oh, yeah.
Remember Young Kim promising that she was going to get enforce term limits, right?
Yeah.
That was part of her campaign,
Yeah,
and
she can do it.
she's a Republican, right? And she was promising that, and she got elected. I don't know if that's why she got elected, but she got elected. Um, she can't change that. You need 36 states to follow suit in order to even have a chance to change that. So it's just a matter of educating people of what is feasible and what is not feasible, right? That's the problem that we need to do that. So, man, time is slow, Mikey.
Yes, it
It's
has.
slow. Well, Mike, thanks for being on tonight.
I mean, great seeing you.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to see you. I haven't been able to see Steamboat Willie up much, and I haven't been able to see Al, but I'm glad to see you tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. In case you don't know, I'm running for state assembly in California, District 44, which includes Glendale, Burbank, La Crescenta, Montrose, Sunland, Tahunga, Valley Village, Shadow Hills, Lakeview Terrace. Um, it's time for a change, folks. Check out my website, Tony, the number 4California.us. See what I'm about. You know, ballots are coming out next week. You should have gotten your book now. Check it out. Thank you and good night.